stream. So it's up there now. Thank you.
All right, we are live again.
Okay. So welcome back to the Board of Education meeting on December 14th, 2020. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will move now into agenda item number 4, the superintendent's report.
All right. Welcome to our high school team who has joined us here. We decided to put your presentation at the very end. So you're going to be on about 9 o'clock tonight. I hope you don't mind. We left that out. But, no, we are going to do a superintendent's report. We put you guys right on it. So we'll start with our news and updates. For the board, I want to make sure that we have some dates lined up here for you. We've had some changes. Policy review was going to be tonight. We moved it, and at one point it's going to be on the 11th, and then we moved it, and trying to get Jeff on board, do some training, but he wasn't available. So I just want to make sure everyone has those dates in their calendar. Some board training before the meeting on the 11th, and the policy review before the meeting on the 25th. The training with Jeff will take about an hour, so we figured 5:15 to 6:15. And the policy review will start at 5 o'clock and just do as much as we can until about 6:15-ish. As you know, the 4,000 policy is extremely long. So that's going to take some time.
Jim, that's January 11th. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Excuse me. The daily screening compliance, we've been tracking this pretty closely. We feel like our daily screening tool is one of the things that is very helpful for us in trying to minimize the risk and the exposure. We've updated our screening survey more than anyone else I know. That was one of the reasons and one of the advantages of doing it ourselves. Matt and then the tech folks led that charge for us. A lot of districts bought into a product, which is great. It's certainly easier. It gives you, I think, some less flexibility in terms of being able to change things as fast or even as often or even at all as we have. So we've been really trying to do this to help monitor the spread or minimize the spread, but we also have been keeping an eye on our compliance. So you can see there approximately 97% of our K-8 families, we didn't track the high school just because we were remote last week, responded to the screener more than 2 of the 5 days. And then what we did with the people who really hadn't done it very often, 4 or 5 days, we got those names to the principals and asked them to follow up. So there were some consistencies there when you look at those names of families. So there were some duplicates. We will continue to stay on that. We do think it's an important piece, and we're going to try and continue to monitor that. I feel like we just shared our monthly social media update, but time is moving quickly. You can see again the job that Brian has done leading the charge on our social media outreach. Quite a high number of posts there. Again, when you compare us to some districts that are much larger than ours, going back to the beginning, we tried to pick some neighbors, some larger districts, some cities, some urban, some suburban. We try to mix it up a little bit. They can see that we're doing really well. And this information here kind of gives you some information on what is being clicked on the most and what is being viewed the most. But we are very proud of the work that we've done with the social media outreach to try and communicate to our community. And we feel it's been pretty effective. So thanks to Brian for leading and for all the people who have contributed. And then the last thing in the report is our instruction for quarantined elementary students. When students are quarantined at the secondary level, we're pretty easily able to transition from in-person to remote because our primary model is the hybrid. That is not the case at elementary where we're in person or virtual. We purposely, in the beginning of this, decided to have teachers who were just virtual teachers. And that was really done with the virtual students in mind in an effort to provide them with an equal educational experience. That's all great. What an unintended consequence of this decision is it's just not very feasible for students to transition to a virtual classroom if they're quarantined, because those two rooms, the virtual and the in-person room, are very different. Schedules, where they are in pacing, the cultures of a classroom, that time the teachers spend really building relationships. So this has been an effort or been an issue. Now that we're getting more students quarantined, unfortunately, at the elementary level, what we've done is we're using our AIS teachers and our intervention specialists to try to make connections for the students who are quarantined. So again, we've been using those people in many different roles and trying to adapt them where needed. Some of them became virtual teachers, some continued in AIS, some are doing this now. But the thought there was to connect the students so they weren't kind of out there when they were quarantined, and B, do so in a way that wasn't adding a significant amount to the plate of the classroom teacher. We know most of the classroom teachers are kind of on their own connecting, but we didn't want that to be a requirement or an extra expectation as their hands are already pretty full. So just wanted to provide those few updates to you regarding what we are doing. Something that's not on here that we can kind of just quickly mention is we are definitely moving forward with our yellow zone testing strategy. I dare say we are in pretty good shape with this. It is ever changing as we wait for more direction from the state. But as of a webinar today, the yellow zone criteria have not changed. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt that it would be, because as of right now, yellow is more stringent than orange and red. But it seems like, at least for the moment, yellow is staying where it is. We've had multiple meetings with our nurses, our directors of nursing, Val Miller and Rebecca Everett, as well as Kate Dorgan, and who oversees the nurses. And we're in pretty good shape. We've focused on what we need now in order to be able to do that if and when we're designated as a yellow zone. Nobody knows exactly what causes you to become a yellow zone or how that metric is determined or when it is determined. There's some hospitalization metric piece of it from my understanding now. So things are kind of changing, but we've made sure we've been proactive with the help of Aaron and Bill Sansone and Sam Beardsley, who's our Questar safety specialist, to get our nurses fit for the proper mask, the N95s. So we feel like we are supplied in that area. We have the initial communication that went out to our families. We have now the follow-up with the percentage of students or asking families for consent. We have some protocols and practices drafted. We've attended webinars. We've talked with include districts that have already done this. So moving forward in the hopes that we don't get there, and this is all for naught, but certainly a good chance that we will be designated yellow at some point. So we want to make sure we're ready and able to do that if we get to that point, and if that's a decision we decide to go. If we don't test, for those who don't remember, then you have to go remote. So we want to at least have the option to be able to keep the doors open if we can. So.
Hey, Jim, I just have a couple of questions. If someone declines or opts out, they don't want to have their kid tested, is the kid moved to remote, or does it depend on how many based on percentage? Like if we have more than, a certain number of people who say, you're not testing my kid, like, what does that mean? That mean we have to go remote?
Yeah, you have to have 20% of students and staff that are in person. So the virtual kids don't count in that denominator. It's just the ones who are in person. And there's no distinction in that 20% between staff members and students. Okay. So that for us is kind of a factor where, we're going to see what we get in terms of consent from families. We have been told by council and shared it with the associations that we can direct employees to get tested. It's a condition of employment. So, we'll probably, I guess in a perfect world, shoot for 10% of each, give or take. There's a lot of gray in the yellow zone, right? Could you do 20% of staff, 20% of students? Does that have to be at each building? The answer to that is no, but some people are saying we want it to be a little bit of each building. Now, the school of thought is you don't want that because you're trying to standardize this testing as much as you can and streamline it. So having 5 different testing sites, for example, would make things a lot more complicated. Our thought process has evolved probably 9 times over from what we originally thought. And then, fortunately, we're at a webinar that was really informative, had people from Suffolk County who's done this in Brighton, which is out in the western part of the state, really was very informative about what people are doing. Those districts have shared their documentation and shared their protocols. So we've been able to learn from some of the things that have already been happening around us. We've talked about doing it during the school day. Originally, it was like, oh, that sounds all the pitfalls of that. But now a lot of the districts that have done the school day testing have said it's been a really positive experience. Positive, maybe not the right word when we're talking about COVID testing. It's been a good experience. But and then that you have the kids ready for you, easily accessible. Again, depending on the consent percentage that you get. Part of it is doing it after school. Thought about doing it on Saturday in a drive-through. We thought about doing it on site. We thought about the bus garage. There's all these things that are still, we're working through the details of. But as I got off the phone with the nurses today, we unfortunately had to cut our meeting short because of cases. They said to me, Jim, here's the bottom line. If we had to do this tomorrow, we could. We're that far along. So we don't have the details ironed out, but we are at the point where we could very easily put something together. So that's good news.
Are they gauging our yellow zone as like just county level hospitals, or are they looking at regional hospital accessibility? So like Rensselaer County has one hospital, but we have access to multiple hospitals regionally.
Right.
Are they looking at our capacity just based on Rensselaer County, or
No idea.
because
No
they're
idea.
being so forthcoming with that information, aren't they?
From my understanding, and I could be wrong, but I've been on some calls and some webinars. There was a webinar today that I was on, and unfortunately I got distracted from a couple times. I know this came up. I have to look at the slides later, but my understanding is that there's not a lot of understanding on that. I think zip codes were kind of done mostly down in the New York City area, and the thought that it'd be more county based. I thought I heard on today's webinar that they're thinking it might not be county based, that they would get down to that zip code and town level, perhaps even up in upstate New York. So there is a hospital component. There's no doubt about that. And in terms of hospitalizations and number of beds and capacity. So I don't know. I know the governor designated new zone today that was highly anticipated, and there was nothing in the capital region. So the good news for us is that Rensselaer County, the numbers are much better than they are in Albany County, and I believe in Schenectady County as well. So I think we'll have some folks in our region get to that number before we do, if we get to that point, most likely. So we'll have a chance to learn maybe some from some people who are even closer to us. But yeah, a lot of uncertainty in that department.
What are one more, I promise. What are the cost implications to administering the testing at the 20%? Because no one's like, we have to cover that.
Well, the tests themselves are going to come from the state. So they'll come from the state through the county. So there won't be a charge for the tests themselves. You have to have an LSL, a limited services license. We are not getting one individually. We're going through our BOCES. So Questar 3 is doing it for the 28 component districts. There'll be a Questar fee that we're going to have to pay, as part of their service. When they do this stuff, they kind of coordinate it. So there'll be something we'll pay towards that from a Questar point of view. I'm not exactly sure what's going to come from that. Probably the data entry, because it's got to be put into the state system. I think they're going to handle that part of it. They'll probably offer some expertise and some on-site work. I think part of the cost will depend on when we do it. So for example, if we did it on a Saturday, we'd always obviously have to pay people to come in on a Saturday, versus if we did it on a random, Tuesday, we probably would need to pay less in terms of salaries. If we do it in the evening, you're talking some cost there maybe for overtime. So there's some variables with that, but we're not expecting the cost to be a huge factor at this point, because the tests themselves will be provided to us. And the testing is really, we're probably going to do a video once we get our hands on some of these. Some superintendents have done it in the western part of the state where they've tested themselves or had themselves tested. It's literally like a cotton swab. It goes in your nostril 5 times, drop it into a little piece of paper, fold it over with the reactant agent on it, and that's it. So
Yeah, it's not the PCR that goes like in your brain.
Right.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh, it's not that one. It's not the deep dive.
no.
The deep dive. Yeah.
That's not so much fun. No. And just to clarify, I'm sorry, Meg, if you're, are you good? That this is the pool testing, right? That they've been doing at SUNY. This is different than pool testing.
Yeah. Pool testing is an option.
Okay.
From my understanding. It's not one that we're looking at though, either as a school or a district or a region or a county or a BOCES. I don't know much about that. My understanding is more at the college level. They've been doing that,
Yeah.
that the
Yep.
school districts are not really considering pool testing to be an option. So.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I know I said that was my last one, but I did have one more. Are we anticipating increased contact tracing requirements, and how is that working with, is the county able to, deal with the additional contact tracing from our additional testing? Because I know like at the county level, there's not a lot of places where you get tested in Rensselaer County. You get tested a lot in Albany County or other areas of the state. So I guess my question is us performing these 20% of tests gonna cause additional stress on that already strained system?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how many come back positive in terms of, I mean, the theory behind it is by testing at school, once you do the 2 weeks, if your positivity rate is less than that 7-day rolling average, you don't have to do it again. So I think part of the rationale from the people making these decisions is that schools are not the problem. So that if you test 20% of your school people, that you're not going to have a lot of positives. So I guess the argument from that point of view would be it won't add a lot of contact tracing, but I guess it all depends on how many positives you get from that. The other thing too, from our understanding, is that if you test positive in that cotton swab test, it's actually not a diagnosis. It's just a referral to get a PCR test. So if you get that, if you get a negative, you're negative. If you get a positive, you need to go get the
deep dive.
Yeah, that's our understanding right now. So
it just went right out of my head. So it'll come back to me. I forgot.
I'll be here all night, so feel free to jump back in with it. Or all right, we'll move then. If there's no other questions. All right, so we will switch over to our celebrations of success video. All right. All right. So the next two things are little bonuses for the superintendent's report. One is we talked here because you received the letter from one of our students about mental health awareness. And we were able to use that to kickstart some things. We had a meeting with just some administrators and counselors and those folks, and it went really well. And then we invited the student into the meeting. And I think I said during board leadership, she reminded us of the student reps we've had in the board meetings the last couple of years. I mean, just amazingly articulate and well-spoken, and confident, and it was great. Did a great job. I mean, it was a Zoom call like this, so kind of intimidating with all these people on it, and she just knocked it out of the park. So it was great. It was good to see someone like that kind of get everyone's juices flowing and moving in the right direction. So a lot of work has been done. There's a lot more to do, but I figured Matt could kind of talk you through some of what we're thinking, and the timing is perfect because Heath and the high school folks are here, and it's going to be kind of driven by the high school. So Matt, and if you need help from Heath, feel free to tag him at any moment.
All right, I'll do my best. Thanks, Dr. Frangini. As Dr. Frangini said, Savannah's letter was really a jab in the side for all of us to say, we've been focusing on mental health in our students and social emotional learning, but are we doing enough? And I think her point was no. We've done an admirable job keeping the building safe physically and focusing on the physical health of our students this year, but maybe not so much with the mental health of our students, and especially during this time of COVID-19. And so she encouraged us to say, would it be possible to have a day focused on this, where we can outwardly talk about this stuff that so many of us have challenges talking about. And so that became the spark for what we are calling Warrior Wellness Day, which will be held on Thursday, January 28th. It will be a day for both middle school and high school students to really educate and share and discuss, try to remove the stigma about talking about mental health. So the day is going to be structured around a number of different activities at both levels. Students will have an opportunity to engage in sessions throughout the day that they can choose from. All the students will be doing this virtually. So we'll have both our virtual and hybrid populations will be able to engage in it by having everyone do it virtually. And they'll be able to do these sessions that they can choose built around things like dealing with anxiety, focusing on the arts, music, exercise, mindfulness, yoga. In addition, we're going to have all of our students participate in the screening of the movie Angst, which is a movie that deals with anxiety, how we focus on it, how we learn from it, what kind of strategies we can use to deal with it. It's a movie that was screened last week by our counseling staff, as well as Savannah. She was invited to be part of that. She's been part of this process all along, which has been great. It's a movie you have to actually buy the screening rights to. So immediately after it was chosen to be the movie, we reached out. The Education Foundation is going to support the funding for being able to screen that. So we're pleased to partner with them. In addition, we have partnerships set up with a number of agencies throughout the day. I've got a list. I'll just read off a few. Rensselaer County Mental Health, Capital Pride, Mental Health Association of New York State, Community Hospice, We Rise Consulting, and Arts Letters and Numbers, local yoga providers as well, plus all the expertise that we'll be using from our in-house staff to lead some of these sessions. In addition, we're not just going to show the movie. There's going to be sessions after to have discussions about it. It does come with a series of discussion questions that we can utilize for making sure that we do more than just show, but that we discuss and that kids have an opportunity to share. And particularly when they're not right in front of us, there were some concerns about them being home and, will kids feel comfortable? So we want to make sure they have ample opportunities to engage with not just their classmates, but with staff as well. So it's a full day. There's a lot to it. As Jim said, there's a lot that's been done. We are indebted to our counseling staff and faculty for what they've done so far, but there's still a lot more to do. When you're engaging over 1,000 students all together at one time, you need to have a lot of opportunities for them. And so a large part of the last few weeks has been exploring different presenters, determining what we're going to do live versus recording, building a schedule, building a website, building a presentation. So much has gone into it. It's taken many hands, but we're well on the way towards realizing what Savannah's dream was for that day. And I think for us, it's worked out beautifully. In terms of the day, just as kind of a footnote, this was, it's during the Regents Week. And so typically we would be doing Regents exams, so there wouldn't be classes, but because the January Regents were canceled by the state, it provided us with an opportunity to bring classes back for that week and really gave us that time to devote an entire day to this. So it's a perfect marriage of having time kind of fall into our lap and having a real spark that is much needed. And I think the important point is that this is really going to be the first step. And we know that we don't just want a one-off experience, that we're trying to make this more a part of the culture, really K-12, but certainly as the kids get older and these become real issues for them at the 6-12 level, we want to make sure we're embedding this throughout their years here at April Park, and not just for a special day. Although I think this day will be a well worth it kickoff to something that's been needed more in depth at the building. Any questions on that?
Hey, Matt, just a quick question. Have the school psychologists been involved?
Yeah, yep, they are part of the planning group as well.
Okay, good. I think it might be nice to introduce them to the students and staff also, just so they know that they do exist
Yeah,
in
who they are.
human
Yep,
form.
definitely.
I have a question, Matt. Oh, sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate all your work with this, because after, I think all of us were moved by her letter when we received it. So it's really, I'm really glad to see that it's moving forward at such a rapid pace, and you guys are making great progress. So thank you.
I agree with that. I think it takes a lot of courage for her to step up and write that letter in the first place and kind of expose her own issues. Most adults can't do that. I'm curious, with the programming, have we added in any programs for our faculty to? I know most teachers are used to being able to identify the signs and symptoms of mental health and problems when they're in the classroom with a student. Can see them physically and see their body language and stuff. Have we incorporated any programming to help them try to identify those factors in student behavior when you're in the virtual setting? So those warning signals and flags that we can try to engage in those kids who might be struggling.
Yeah, and I don't know specifically for the virtual population, Megan, but one of the things that we had talked about is that coincidentally the next day is our superintendent's conference day, and we were thinking about how we might be able to tie in what we did the previous day with our students, with our staff as well. So at least a portion of that day, we're kind of kicking around how we might be able to make a connection between those 2 days, and I think that would be a welcome place for a staff component as well.
I'd just like to echo what others have said. I really appreciate the fact that this has been turned around so quickly, because I'm sure each one of you here on this call has got nothing else to do with your days. So I definitely appreciate the fact that we've been able to get this turned around, and I'm thrilled that she's decided to be active with it.
Yeah.
It's real easy just to kind of cast things out there, but the fact that she's willing to step forward and participate in this is truly a wonderful sign. So thank you.
I think Megan used the courage. I don't think she struggles with courage at all. She had no problem coming in and telling us what we needed to do, and it was welcome to hear. So we welcome it, and I will take no credit for the work that's been done. Just amazing work by our counseling staff and our support staff. They have really embraced this. They were not resisting in any way. They welcomed this, and they've done an amazing amount of work in a short amount of time. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt. And now we welcome the high school learning team, not all of them, but members of the high school BLT. Thank you to all of them for joining us. This is our second presentation. You had Algonquin last month, and now the high school will go second. So we'll turn it over to Heath. Heath, you're gonna need to share your screen.
Yes, I do. I'm going to go ahead and share that if I could.
I just made you a co-host, Heath, so hopefully you have that button now.
Okay, sounds good. And it looks like it's working. So give me 1 second. I'm presuming at this point, folks can at least see my screen, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I'm going to pop that into present mode. And I think we're in good shape. So good evening, everybody. I think I know most of you pretty well, but for those of you who I haven't gotten to know quite well so yet, my name's Heath Keelays. I'm the principal at April Park High School. Thank you for taking the time to give us tonight maybe 10 minutes of your evening to kind of take a little bit of time to give you some updates on what we've been doing at the high school since we've opened. As you can imagine, it's been an interesting one, right? A lot of challenges and a lot of very exciting things happening amidst, a good number of hurdles. The good news is we're having a very successful year, and we're feeling very good about the work that is being done in our classroom and the school community and around. So tonight we're going to take a little bit of time to update you with the things that have been happening, but most specifically, we'd like to make sure that you are in the loop with regards to what our building-wide measurable objectives are and how those objectives relate to your goals as the Board of Education. We worked really hard this year to identify 3 different objectives in our building that we believe are not only serving to help to bring us forward with regards to what we do to respond to a pandemic for all of our students, but also it just so happens that those align very nicely with the goals that you've set for the entire district for the 2021 school year. So you're going to hear a little bit tonight about our use of Google Classroom, about digital platforms being expanded as a means through which to enhance student learning and engagement. And you're also going to hear about some of the things that we're doing to improve student performance. So tonight I've brought with me 3 members of our building learning team, in addition to our 2 assistant principals. And each of those persons are going to share a little bit of information about what I just talked about. And then at the end, we're going to share some general successes and hopefully leave some room for some questions if you've got them. You'll note we have a lot of videos because we hoped to just give you a nice diverse array of voices. We wanted you to hear from our teachers, from our students, and from a number of different sorts of perspectives about how things are going this year. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to John Zender, who is going to jump in and open from this point with the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having us tonight. As we looked at the district's 3 goals, we came up with our objectives. So the district's goals being students will graduate college and career ready, will productively engage in their school community, and will be digitally fluent. We came up with objectives that are somewhat broadly hitting more than one of these goals at a time. So our first building objective is 100% of students and staff at the high school will use Google Classroom as a school-wide tool. And this really hits all of the goals. We have students who are going to be digitally fluent working with Google Classroom, and they are using it to engage in their community, and it fits into college and career readiness as we move to a more digital future. Building objective number 2, we have 100% of students at the high school will engage with 2 or more digital learning platforms as a means through which to enhance active engagement with instruction in their classes. And being somebody who recently was back taking college courses, I can say that things were a lot different than the last time I had been in a college environment. And indeed, digital platforms are everything. They have exploded, and different professors expect different platforms, and students need to be able to be flexible to navigate that. And I think that with this expectation of our students, this objective, we're doing just that. We're preparing them for the world to come. And our building objective number 3 is that we have a Q1 baseline of 25% of students failing 1 or more classes while engaging in the new virtual and hybrid program. So faculty and staff will leverage the PLC process and IST and SST structures to improve student performance by at least 50% by the end of the year. And this really hits goals 1 and 2 for college and career readiness and engaging in the school community. And now I'm going to hand this off to Jeff Brown, who's going to take it from here.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Dr. Franchini, and thank you, Mr. Keelace, for letting us be a part of this tonight. Building objective number 1 is that 100% of our students and teachers at the high school will be engaged in Google Classroom, and that may be a new objective, but Google Classroom is not new to the high school. As a matter of fact, it's been around for about 6 years, and I had to contact Melissa Weatherwax, who's so engaged with the IT for us at the high school, because I was at that workshop that she conducted about 6 years ago before the school year even began. And I asked her, I said, Melissa, when was that meeting? Because I remember being there. And she goes, oh, I'll never forget. That's the one where you said, just let me keep using my flip phone, my pencil and paper, and I'll be fine. She didn't call me an old teacher. She may have called me a veteran teacher, because I was very frustrated at that time learning how Google Classroom worked. That was in 2014. So some of us have been using it for a long time. Some of us have been struggling with it for a long time. And so it does have some history at the high school. If you're not familiar with it, Google Classroom really is a class management system or a tool. And as I say, I used it prior to remote teaching, and it was helpful back then, but it's absolutely crucial now to keep our students engaged and to keep us delivering the instruction to them. I have one Google Classroom for every class I teach. It's possible to link maybe 2 classes if you have the same prep, a couple different classes. You can link them, but I prefer to have just one Google Classroom per class. It's used primarily for me to organize my classwork so the students can have easy access to it. And by that, I mean the syllabus can be placed on Google Classroom for easy access. I have scanned textbook pages that are all there for the students, because not every one of my students could take a textbook home, but they do have access to the textbook through the scanned textbook pages. The same is true of packets. Links to movies on Swank, which is the ability for high school students through the library to have access to movies that we show in our classes. I can use this classwork arrangement material to have links to YouTube videos, websites, and Jamboard links. So this also is a way to make sure that the students are engaged through all those different digital platforms. There's another feature on Google Classroom, the stream function, and that allows students to be automatically updated that an assignment has been posted. So there's the engagement component right there. It's instantaneous, and it's linked to their emails whenever a new assignment or even material has been posted. It allows me to post announcements to students, which was very helpful on November 17th when we lost at the high school internet connectivity. I have a smartphone now. I got rid of my flip phone from 6 years ago, but I was able to get on my smartphone, go to my car where I did have internet access, get on Google Classroom, and alert the students in the particular class I'm speaking about that they could continue to do the assignments that were posted to them and to just hang tight because we lost internet connectivity. This morning, for example, we didn't have email abilities for about the first hour or so. So I was able to get on Google Classroom, let the students know that that would still function, class would occur even without email or with some hiccups that we were having on the internet. So it's a perfect way to keep those students engaged, teachers engaged, and allow classes to continue. It's easier for me with Google Classroom to keep track of who has a particular item or who doesn't. When you teach 6 classes and over an A/B schedule, at least I do, sometimes I forget what material I've actually passed out on paper to students who are in my classroom. I would sometimes have to ask, now, do you guys have this or not? That's no longer the case with Google Classroom, because once that material is posted on Google Classroom, it's there for everyone to have. If they have access to Google Classroom, they have access to every piece of material I'd like them to have. And for the past 6 years or so, when I actually ran distance learning classes, when I was sending French 4 and French 5 to Cairo Durham and to Ichabod Crane, which is no longer the case, I was able to keep those students engaged with our Averill Park students as well, seamlessly using Google Classroom. It allows me to keep track of my grades perhaps a little bit more easily than I did in the past. I can collect assignments, I can grade them, I communicate with students, I make comments, I make suggestions, all on the Google Docs that have been uploaded to Google Classroom. I can see who has finished and who hasn't. However, it is a bit easier to procrastinate, because in the past, when I had piles and piles and piles of papers to take home with me that weighed down my brief bag, I knew what I had in front of me. So now that it's all sort of out there in the cloud, if I turn off my computer, I can kind of turn that off. So that's kind of tongue in cheek, but it is a little bit easier. I have to be right on top of that to make sure what's out there and what students have handed in to me. As I say, it keeps the students very well engaged. It keeps my colleagues engaged as well. If I have special ed teachers who are keeping track of their students who are in my classrooms, I can invite that special ed teacher who has nothing to do with my classroom. I can invite that teacher to be a teacher in my Google Class, so they have access to all the material, things handed in, and assignments, so they can keep their special ed students on track the same way they would with another class. I can include someone like Melissa Weatherwax or other IT professionals in my Google Classroom so they can help me troubleshoot issues I may be having. Substitute teachers now have access to Google Classroom. So it's now become a seamless way for instruction to continue, even if I'm not in the room or if over a virtual teaching situation. And I also think it increases students' responsibility. They can now find their assignments, they can submit work, they can communicate with me, they can respond to my corrections and suggestions, and they can see their grades all in Google Classroom. It's seamless, and it is entirely engaging for them. Motivated students are especially good with Google Classroom. I got an email today from a student who said, Mr. Brown, would you please post the assignment you talked about in class so I can hand in my assignment and so you can see it. Sometimes the students are a couple steps ahead of us. I might talk about an assignment, but they will communicate with me, especially the motivated ones, say, please put that assignment in Google Classroom, which will then allow me to submit my assignment to you for grading. It works well for all classes, but in particular, it's been working very well for an elective I have, Global Cinema Studies. It allows this class to run virtually as well, almost as well virtually as it does when they're in the classroom. As I said, the syllabus is there. Material is all there, organization is all there, the frequent assignments, and the links to all the movies that we've been watching. We just finished watching a movie from India. We're getting ready to watch a movie from Russia, and it's all there for them to have in one neat little package. And now Mr. Keelace is going to share a video with us with information about how other teachers use Classroom, and I'll be taking notes with my pen and paper just to get some more ideas from how they do it.
Jeff, thank you. And we wanted to take just a second to show you a 2-minute quick video to just show you a couple of other perspectives from a few other staff members at the high school about some of the changes that they've seen as a result of using Google Classroom school-wide.
Good morning. I just wanted to show you what Google Classroom does for me on a daily basis. I really would come down to simply being able to be organized. That's not probably my best thing. Google Classroom is a big difference. And I'm just going to show you on my screen what happens for me. On my screen I have Masterminds, which is a club that I run. Detective fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, men's literature, AP12 language and composition, philosophy, as well as the fact that I coach volleyball. So it really kind of organizes everything that I do. And you can see there's a lot of courses to teach. It also forces me to really explain what it was that we're going to do next. So it divides everything for me into, for example, detective fiction as cozies, Quarter 2, Holmes and Watson, Quarter 2, presentation, Quarter 1. It really organizes me and makes it so that I have to have everything in all my ducks in a row every day. So if anything, that's changed the way I do things. It means I'm a little less spontaneous, but by the same token, I kind of stay on track. So that's what Google Classroom does for me.
My name is Brandon Porter, and I'm a new English teacher here at Averill Park High School. And I can't speak highly enough about using Google Classroom. I used it a little bit actually in student teaching before I came to work here. And specifically for English work, it's been extremely helpful in so many different ways. Students can easily send in their work to me. I can easily grade it and send it back to them. All the work's in one place, all the assignments, so I don't have to compile student handouts and things like that. It's a lot more organized. And specifically for writing too, it's been super helpful. I can leave comments on student work and designate which spot I'm specifically talking about. And then when I leave a comment, students can respond back to it. So we can have this ongoing dialogue about how to maybe improve their work or what they're doing really well and things like that. So pandemic or not, I plan to use Google Classroom far into my teaching career in the future. Thanks.
So there you can see a couple of perspectives from a few other folks at the high school as well. I'm going to pass us off now to Sarah Christie, who's going to talk a little bit about building objective number 2.
Hi, everyone. So you can see I am a living example with my 3-year-old son being my current header on Zoom tonight as I talk about different learning and platforms that we get to engage with in this new world that we're living in. It's been nice to also have been given the objective that I can so confidently say that we are not only achieving, but also surpassing. In my particular department, I'm the high school chorus teacher. We spoke a lot about how we were going to create really authentic and meaningful musical opportunities for our students. And we quickly figured out that those conversations could not happen without allowing the technology to really clearly and completely shape how we would create those experiences for our students. This summer, with the help of Mike Wiemet, we were able to get a Mac lab on a cart that, while the original vision was that that would be used for students who were going into music technology, it is paid off in dividends in allowing Mike and I the opportunity to create real life, authentic performances with the kids. We are recording our rehearsals daily. We are having the kids send us recordings through Flipgrid or by uploading through Google Drive. We're able to transform those files using GarageBand and Audacity and Logic into different collaborative performances that will actually, our first experience will be coming out in a CD this week that has been freshly pressed. We got the email today. And without these learning platforms, I don't know how we would authentically keep not only our hybrid, but our fully virtual learners authentically engaged. And it's become something that we're really very thankful for. Currently, we are also working on creating virtual performances with Final Cut Pro, and we'll be turning our lens towards Music First and are requesting Sight Reading Factory so that our kids will be prepared for our state performances for NISMA. So as you can see in my small world, I've just rattled off 8 to 10 different options that we've gotten them using and experiencing. And that, along with the Google Suite, has been really, really crucial and wonderful to have as an opportunity for our kids. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Heath so that my other colleagues can share their wonderful experiences.
Sarah, thank you. Thank you very much. And again, we wanted to share a few more voices than just our own. So here's another quick 2.5-minute video with some perspectives from some of our teachers at the high school about different digital platforms that they're using to keep students engaged in virtual instruction.
Hi, I'm Vicki Boulay, and I teach biology at the high school. I just wanted to talk for a moment about Jamboard, which is a fairly cool collaborative whiteboard that students can work at virtually in very large groups, small groups. They can bring in materials, they can bring in images, they can draw and sketch. It's a great space for collaboration. It's very intuitive and easy. I've got a couple of boards here I wanted to show you that my kids made where they're comparing, simple prokaryotic cells to eukaryotic cells, creating an analogy. So you can see that they've had some time here to have fun, talk about things, but also collaborate and create something worthwhile.
Hi, I'm Beth Perry. I teach chemistry in the high school. One of the platforms that I've used is Pear Deck. Pear Deck will take an existing slideshow presentation that you have and allows you to incorporate questions, assessment, areas for student feedback, audio, visual. It's been a fantastic platform for me when we're teaching the hybrid model. And excuse me, in lab, I have a lab going on, a hands-on lab and I'm focused on helping those students and making sure that everything is safe, while my students at home are engaged in taking notes and really contributing to those notes with feedback and assessments, and even like, you know, drawings, any kind of like handwritten feedback. So it really keeps them engaged while I'm otherwise occupied. It's been a great resource for learning in science.
Hi there, my name is Lynn Gerke, and I'm a social studies teacher at Eagle Park High School. I'm here to share one of the digital learning platforms I've been using this year. As a social studies teacher, debating is a very important component of class, and obviously in a digital world, that's a little difficult to do. So one of the platforms I have been using is called Kialo, and on this site, students are able to digitally really create what a debate would be like. I really love the website, how it's set up. I would pose a question and then students would then comment, and they're very used to the format. They can like a comment, they can edit a comment, they can rate comments, and generally it really does get more student engagement, which is why I love it.
Mrs. Oldendorf. I teach biology at the high school, and one digital learning platform that has really been a game changer for me in this virtual environment is the Nearpod software, and it's a software that requires the students to join the lesson, and we can do things like have collaborative boards, they can do things like draw different things, and prompts that they can do labeling, and it all happens in real time, and I'm able to monitor their progress, and also most importantly, it helps me to overcome the two of the biggest hurdles for me during this, which is accountability for the students and also their presence here during my lessons. So it's been great, and I think the students enjoy it and remain engaged as well. Thank you.
So there you guys can see that we do have a lot of different teachers using a number of different platforms, again, with the objective of really making our students college and career ready by exposing them to platforms that will engage them in instruction in a variety of different ways. Our third building objective is one that really focuses on student performance. As we ended the first quarter of the school year, we think that it was certainly fair to say that it is evident that our students find engagement in our remote and in our hybrid instructional models to be more challenging than perhaps traditional instructional models have looked like in the past. So we're working with a baseline of 25% of our students who are failing one or more of their courses at the beginning of, or at the end of the first quarter. Again, comparing that to last year at the same time, we were around 16%. So we know that we've had an increase in the number of students who are struggling to engage with instruction in these new models. So we think it's very important that we have a building objective that really aims to address the needs of our struggling learners and to create more successful outcomes for those students. So for some of the trends that we saw were actually quite interesting. For example, while students across the board seemed to struggle because you're looking at an aggregated piece of data there, grades 9 through 12 across the high school, it was interesting to see that our 12th graders, for example, actually were performing as well as, if not better, this year than they did last year at this time. So it's like when you look at the 12th grade, for example, you know, these instructional models seem to be working because our students in the 12th grade are statistically doing quite well. That being said, however, we see that there's much more struggling occurring at the 9th grade. It gets a little bit better at 10th grade, a little bit better at 11th grade. We're seeing our older students in general enjoying and taking advantage in a positive way of the flexible sorts of models that we've been using, whereas some of our younger students continue to struggle. So we know that this is something that we need to work on this year. Interestingly, we found that there was very flat difference in performance between our 100% virtual students and our students who are in hybrid. We would have expected that our virtual students perhaps may have struggled a good deal more than our students who are engaged in hybrid, when in fact, when we ended the quarter, it was very flat. There wasn't a really great difference in terms of the amount of of difficulty that our students were having, at least in terms of grades, between those two populations. So we know that we're going to be working very hard over the next 3 quarters to address student performance and to make sure that we're increasing student performance. So I want to pass off to Becky, one of our assistant principals, for just a couple of minutes so she can talk about the strategies that we're going to be using to address the needs of our struggling learners in the upcoming year.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rebecca Leach. I'm one of the assistant principals, like Mr. Keeley said. So we have 2 groups that meet weekly and monthly to address student performance. The first is our student support team. Students that are on the agenda for the student support team are generally teacher referred, although we do look at data. We meet weekly with an agenda to discuss these students that are referred and discuss different intervention strategies. Some of the intervention strategies might be very typical, like a parent contact, a parent meeting, a counselor-student meeting, and we've been trying to get a little more innovative. More recently, we're actually this week, we're going to be starting some restorative circles for our 9th graders who are really not engaging. We've also I've been working with the Honor Society, and we're beginning our peer tutoring, which we had a little last year. But when we closed that, we didn't continue it, and we're going to have the virtual peer tutoring program. So also something we can maybe access. Our instructional support team really is looking at academics, whether a student needs extra support in academics. These are also teacher-driven referrals. That team meets monthly. They review data from the teacher of where the academic concerns are, and the ultimate end goal would be that if a student needs an intervention period, that they would go into an intervention period. But sometimes we do some different strategies prior to putting them in intervention to see if any of those will work as well. The second component that we have there is our ALTs continue to meet monthly, and they have been examining student performance data, and they've been using our PLC process of professional learning communities, where they're looking at student performance data, assessing it, comparing it from this year to last year, comparing mastery rates, passing rates, and failure rates. They're using these numbers to inform their practice. Does the classes need to change? Does our instructional strategies need to change? They're also using it as a collaborative time to kind of discuss strategies that they may have, where one teacher's tried this strategy that they're sharing with their colleagues. Certainly these are unique times, and collaboration is really a useful tool for us. We've been also doing that in our faculty meetings, trying to provide more collaborative time. So I think that's all I have to say, and I'm going to be passing it along to Christina Mee.
Thank you, Mrs. Leach. So this is the time of year where you start to reflect on the year and celebrate the successes that you've had along the way and look towards goals in the future. So as Mrs. Leach already spoke about, we do have some updates this year we've made to our SST and our IST processes to address student needs. We also are implementing that virtual peer tutoring program. Some of my favorite time of the day is spent with our student leadership team. They are the elected officials from each of the cohorts with their advisors, and we meet at least once a month, sometimes more than that, to kind of get a pulse on where they're at, the students, and to brainstorm ideas of what we can do to kind of just enrich that positive sense of community that we have. We are also lucky to have our extracurricular activities are all up and running virtually. So that allows both our students in the 100% virtual model versus our hybrid students to be able to all join together and participate in a rich array of extracurricular activities. And with that, we are in the midst of planning all the fun stuff coming up as we're going into the holiday season. Our Spirit Week is going to be spearheaded by our student leadership team, our student government. They're going to be releasing that very soon because Friday is our kickoff for our upcoming holiday Spirit Week. And in the mid-fall, we had our Halloween contest, which was also run by our student newspaper. They had a contest and things to kind of just add a little fun, a little pop into the day. And the kids really enjoyed it. So they're super excited to kick off Spirit Week. And the biggest thing I think is that I believe all my colleagues have touched upon it throughout this presentation, is that we have such a sense of community, a positive sense of community, where we've all come together. We're making lemonade out of the lemons that we've been dealt with the virus, and it's brought us closer together and really made us be thankful for each of the little things along the way. So I know I personally enjoy hearing from the students. I'm going to turn it over to the kids because we have some videos from them with what they're happy about from this year.
Thank you, Christina. And so as Mrs. Mina just said, our last piece here is just to share a little bit of perspective from some of our students about the things that they've appreciated as we've kind of moved.
Hi, my name is Ella Lindheimer and I'm in 11th grade this year. One positive thing I've experienced this school year is feeling well connected with my teachers and the administration. My teachers and the administration have done a great job with providing students with information to stay well connected with each other.
Hi, I'm Michelina Lombardi and I'm a junior here at Averill Park High School, and I would just like to take a minute to talk to you all and tell you one positive thing I have noticed in our school community despite the challenges we are currently faced with. Recently, I have noticed a willingness to help each other out. Now more than ever during these difficult times, it's really nice to see students, teachers, faculty members, no matter who they are, everyone's coming together to help and support each other.
Hi, I'm David Meridian, the president of the 10th grade class. And in a strange year like this, it's hard to find things to be positive about or to be optimistic about. But two things that definitely come to mind are being able to be back in a normal learning environment in the same room as your teachers and your classmates and get that sense of normalcy back. You definitely see that it's much more engaging, and you learn a lot more when you're in the same location as your friends and as your teachers. And I think we definitely took that for granted in years past. And another thing I'm very encouraged by is the involvement of our full student body.
Hello, I'm Ava Ferrero. I'm a 9th grader at Averill Park High School. So this year has been very hard on everyone. And I think that honestly, the best thing that's happened to me this year were some of my teachers. They've been so motivational and sweet and positive, and they've impacted me so much. And I always feel like I have someone I can go to and talk to. And I feel like that their positive impacts on students have raised students' spirits and made them have enjoy school more, even though it's online.
I'm Lauren Paris. I am a senior here at Averill Park High School, and one of the positives going into the school year is definitely that teachers have been way more lenient and understanding when it comes to virtual being a little bit harder than in person. When it comes to homework, tests, and quizzes, they've definitely been a little more understanding about that. And another very nice positive is that since many seniors are going to college next year, I think having that independence while being online has been very helpful, and I think it's prepped us a lot for what college is going to be like, with how a lot of the stuff is going to be independent and on your own.
Hi, Averill Park. My name is Ashley Mean, and I am one of the presidents for Student Government for 2020 through 2021 school year. Despite all the challenges that we've been through this year, one positive experience I've had at Averill Park High School is being able to see my friends and my teachers in person safely. Stay safe, everyone, and don't forget to wear your mask.
So as you guys can see, we wanted to share a little bit of perspective.
Hi,
One second there, a little bit of perspective from our students. And as you can see, we've got some pretty solid objectives for this year that we hope are going to carry us through the pandemic, but also, beyond and into years to come. So I wanted to just say thank you to our board for giving us the time tonight. I think we probably took more than we should have. I guess we get one shot a year to do this, so I think we took advantage of it. But our many thanks to you as well. So that is our presentation for this evening, and I will go ahead and remove this from the screen, and Dr. Franchini and board, if you have any questions, we are at your disposal.
And you can go first, Anne, if you want.
That was fantastic. Thank you. Necessity is the mother of invention, for sure, right? And wow, you guys just took it exponentially. I I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I just wonder on the part where the kids are struggling. Do you see that as a direct, obviously, you know, there's a pretty big jump from last year to this year. Could that be related to the lack of access to technology or internet connectivity? Or do you believe there might be a perception of less of a, even though, you know, the teachers, at least the ones that I see with Frankie, are very good about, you know, making sure she's in class and she's participating and she shows her face. And, but I wonder if there's a perception of maybe not having to be as accountable as, you know, being on time at school. I'm sure you folks have considered those factors, but is it obvious that it's that, or do you think there's more to it?
You know, it's a really new problem, so it's something I think we're learning about as we go. I will tell you that I met with the Suburban Council principals this morning, which we do every couple of weeks. Students across the Capital Region and all of our Suburban Council counterparts are really experiencing the same exact issue, right? And that's declining performance. You know, when you look at 12th graders perhaps doing better and 11th graders doing better than 9th or 10th graders, we're starting to think there may be some basic skill sets that students develop over time that make them be more apt to be able to manage instruction in different modalities. And maybe we need to start to develop those skill sets in our younger students who haven't had time to do that. That's, you know, those things like self-direction and organization and, you know, being self-reliant, knowing how to seek out resources when you need them. But we're seeing an array of different problems. You know, we're seeing some issues with connectivity. We're seeing some issues with disengagement. We've seen issues with mental health, with, you know, complicated family dynamics. And then just plain and simply a huge change in the modality of instruction, which in and of itself is like tremendous, right? So we're seeing a lot of different like sources for what this might be about. But like I said, it's a new problem. So we're putting everything we've got into continuing to monitor it, to learn, and to adjust so that we can get better, you know, for our students.
My question was kind of along those same lines as what Anne is thinking about. With the 25% of students that are failing one or more classes, has it been drilled down to the percentage of students that are failing more than 2 classes, who are, you know, doing exponentially worse than that 25% drill down? And then my other question was along those lines, because you said there's no difference between the hybrid and the virtual students. So I'm curious if it's been drilled down to the specific classes that the students are struggling with. Like, are they science? Is a lot of people struggling with science related classes that are obviously going to be more challenging in a virtual environment? Like, what type of data do we have on that?
So the really great news is that we have this new product called Tableau, which is a data dashboard that we actually just rolled out this past couple of weeks to our teacher leaders. We created this last year. That dashboard takes our quarter one data and it gives the aggregated information shared, but it also allows us to break it down by department, by course, by teacher, by socioeconomic, diversity, ethnicity, gender, grade level. You name it, we've got access to be able to look at it from a variety of different perspectives. So we are looking at it very closely. What activity that our teacher leaders did in their department meetings today at the high school was actually to take that department level data to each team of teachers and to sit down as a group and to really break down as to what's going on in the department. Digging into that data further, course by course, grade level. And I'm going to tell you something, including to something that I think it must be apparent just beyond even science is one of those outliers where while there wasn't a significant shift in virtual and 100% virtual hybrid students, there is actually a bit of a difference. So we see that students are struggling a bit more with science. After that, it's followed by math, and then after that, it becomes like so one of the things Becky had talked about, professional learning community model. That means we want teachers, administrators, we want our whole internal school community to be looking at that performance data from every angle and working with it in each and every department meeting to make sure that we're fleshing out what it all means and what, more importantly, after we know what we can do with it. I don't know if that answered the question, Meg, appropriately. Just check in.
Can I just add also, I think what we're finding is the students that were always struggling are still struggling, and probably more so. So, and I think we feel like the virtual kids, there was a group of virtual kids that were really high flyers that were really great. And then there was a group of virtual kids that really were strugglers. And I think that's kind of that data evens us out a little bit. So definitely the students that were less engaged, even when they were present in the building, it's even more difficult to get them to engage in this kind of learning. So, and we're new at it for sure. So we're throwing everything we have at it to see what we can do to remedy it.
And Becky's SST team, actually, I think I thought of one thing you asked that I didn't hit on. They did break it down by 2 or more, 3 or more, 4 or more, and 5 or more, so that they could prioritize which groups of students they needed to target and work with right immediately, and then work their way through the system and from a priorities perspective.
And I would just add to your initial question, Anne, that the equity piece, our technology department has been tremendous, and the district has been super supportive of making sure our kids have the devices. If they need a hotspot for the connectivity, all those are addressed, and they're addressed quickly.
And I will say, I actually was a late signer on to get a device when I thought they would have all been gone just down at the elementary level. And we managed to snag when our home devices didn't turn out to be up to snuff. So the district from our perspective, you know, we're getting this since you guys are out there. I feel like I've heard a lot of kind of excitement around this technology and you know, this learning curve. And I assume that kind of as you guys go, you're building in what the utilization is going to be, you know, if we ever go back to normal, whatever that is, when kids are going to school every day, what a crazy idea. But that these tools are going to still be incorporated even when the kids are in the classroom, because you guys sound really excited and clearly you've put a lot of work, and I would, you know, hate to see that like drop off. Yeah. It sounds like you guys would hate to see it too. So I know my 9-year-old's getting digitally fluent, so it's trickling down.
Yeah, while we're doing this out of necessity right now, obviously the goal would be that all of these tools should continue to just enhance instruction and the diversity and the quality of the ways that we can engage when we're back in school fully. You know, this should be something we're using forever moving onward.
Just one other observation, because I think you had said that, you know, the 9th and 10th graders are struggling probably a little bit more than the 11th or 12th graders. And the district does do a lot of collaboration. So I'm wondering, have you guys spoken to the middle school team to see, are they experiencing similar situations like where their 6th graders are struggling more than their 8th graders are struggling? And then also what they can do to implement so that as, you know, the wave goes forward, that we're kind of addressing those things in kind of in a proactive way.
That is on, it's not something we've done yet. It's on the docket for January because we have a shared superintendent conference day in January where we're able to look at student performance, and that we always use as an opportunity to bring middle school and high school together to do a check-in on how kids are doing, both with the transition, but across different content areas. So that comes up at the end of January. We'd like to do it more, so I'll be looking for opportunities. And, you know, once a year is good. We could do it more.
Well, good. Thank you. We appreciate that you keep continuing to look forward during, you know, this kind of mode when you're trying to just keep your head above water. That's much appreciated.
Well, thank you. And thank you for letting us present tonight. And thank you for all the things that you've been doing, because this has not been easy for anyone, and that includes you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
All right. Thank you, Heath and the team. We appreciate it. And that concludes a rather lengthy superintendent's report.
All right.
High school
Well,
folks, you can feel free to hop on off.
You
more
won't
than
be offended.
say, but we won't hold it against you.
Thank you.
Come on.
I want to go to high school with you.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Good night.
Those were awesome.
Okay. So that moves us, that was all good information. So it was lengthy, but it was good. So it moves us to the public comment period of our meeting, where community members seeking to provide questions or comments to the board should submit them to our district clerk. And we did receive one of those today via email, which Linda then forwarded. And so I forwarded that to all of you. So we have a comment from Mr. Patrick Matthews that I shared. I'm not sure if anything else has come in since then, but we did get that earlier today, and I hope you all had the opportunity to look at that. Or if you didn't, it's in your email. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda, item number 6. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Megan.
Megan, Anne, I guess it was. I like that I can see all you guys right now until we start sharing the screen again. Any questions, comments, concerns? Peter?
No, sorry, I'm just.
Okay. I just want to acknowledge the tenure we're providing tonight to Katie Dragostis. I'm not sure how to say her last name, and I apologize for butchering it. Because I think that's a nice thing to be able to do, since we had a period of time following 2010 when we didn't have many people because we weren't really in the hiring mode. So it's great to see these come onto our agenda. And congratulations to Katie. Anything else? Okay, hearing none, I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you. On to item number 7, a resolution in regards to the foreign travel for the field trip on the Adriatic Odyssey. And as it's written, we'd like to approve it as it's written in our meeting notes. Do I have a motion? Chris, is that you motioning? Thank you. Anne? Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I think it passed unanimously. I think I saw everybody's hand go up. Thank you. On to item number 8, to approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the Averill Park Central School District and the Averill Park Teachers Association to compensate a teaching assistant for additional teaching duties for the first semester at Averill Park High School.
Megan.
Do I have Megan? Thank you. Anne, is that your hand raised? I can't see everybody anymore, so. Any?
Yes, that's my hand.
Okay. Any comments, questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, you're going to have to say it this time because I can't see everybody.
Aye.
Aye.
I think that was unanimous. Is that true? Any nays? Okay, thank you. You passes unanimously. Okay, on to item number 9, to approve the memorandum of agreement. by and between the Averill Park Central School District and the Averill Park Teachers Association, allowing individual teachers to work remotely upon approval from the superintendent during the 2020-2021 school year.
Megan?
Do I have a motion? Megan?
Peter.
Peter, thank you. Discussion.
I'm just, is this directly related to the number of teachers that we've had to have quarantine, but who were not sick or symptomatic? That we need to have them not in a school building because of exposure, but we need to, or they choose to or want to work even though they need to quarantine?
Yeah, it's related to a lot of things. So really what happened was, last year, March through June, we had said pretty clearly that people were going to work from home. And then over the summer, we said pretty clearly, okay, when we come back, we want people to be here. And we did that for a variety of reasons. Partly because we really wanted people to have like a regular set work day and then go home, because one of the concerns we heard was about teachers kind of feeling like they had to work 24 hours a day because it was the beginning and end. We also felt there was some being on an island sort of feeling, lack of collegiality as people were away and working at home. So we were pretty strongly like adamant, like we want people here, we're going to make this work and have professional development and planning time. And slowly as this has evolved, we've kind of said, okay, the first case we shut down the high school, moved it to remote, we felt like it wasn't necessarily safe or responsible to bring our folks in because we didn't know where the spread was. So we said, okay, I know we said that, but there's exceptions. This is an exception, right? You can work from home. And then when we kind of brought people back this time, the high school's out first, but then K-8 was here. So we said, okay, you need to come back. Now what's happening is our numbers are so great of people who are quarantined, partly because of what we did with our screening survey in an effort to try to reduce spread. We've adopted a much more stringent standard than the county health department. And, so that if you're, if someone at home is quarantined, then we want you to stay as home as well, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or what have you. So that, along with just obviously the increase that not only our district, but all districts are seeing in terms of cases, has led to a lot more people quarantined. So we've had a lot of teachers who've come to us and said, I really need to work from home if I'm going to work. I have to be home for my child, to care for my child. So, okay, if we're remote, we can let them work from home and have them still teach their class. So it became sort of like, okay, we really value our faculty and we want them here and we feel like our faculty is better than any sub. So, okay, let's, when we can, provide that opportunity for folks. And in the last week or so, it's really exploded, probably exponentially. Our own people who are quarantined, their own people in their household who are quarantined, and actually approach the association and say, listen, the feedback we've gotten from our faculty is that they really value this. They really value the choice. The association is pretty clear on that in terms of morale and in terms of meeting their own needs at home and taking care of their families, also being able to do their job well, they really would benefit from working from home. From a district point of view, you also have to factor in that we have a shortage of subs. So it's best for us whenever we can to have the most qualified people teaching the kids the content. When we're in person, it means we have to get someone physically in the room. But if they're not in person, then you don't even need that physical supervision. So it's a lot of factors all coming together that we decided to approach the association about it. They were very, I think, thankful and grateful for this. We feel like our faculty is very professional, and we want to treat them like professionals. We're not worried about people taking advantage of things or not doing what they're supposed to. And of course, if that happens, we'll find out from any variety of sources and handle individuals or what have you, but we're not worried about that being an issue, and just thought this was the best thing for our faculty and for our students.
One other question, do we have any faculty that have expressly said they want to come in and I would imagine that we're obviously taking the extra measures still to make sure that, that the environment is still safe?
A lot of folks have. They like to be able to teach from their room. So what's happened when we've given them the choice, I think we've seen some people who just come in every day. We've had some people who have stayed home every day, and we've had some people who have had a mixture. So yeah, we definitely people still coming in, and we're doing all the safety protocols, the screening survey, and the cleaning, all stuff we can do to try and minimize exposure risks. They can come in, of course, unless they're quarantined or anything like that. But if they're able to come in, and they're allowed to come in.
Any other comments, questions?
To what extent does that apply? I know that the intent kind of right now is really to try and make sure that that elementary level stays on site to the extent that they can. So does that present a conflict with having enough teachers in the rooms or because you've kind of offered that? Is that just offered at the upper levels, or is it offered across the board, but you have enough bodies at the elementary that you can offer it across the board? I feel like maybe that was written down somewhere, but it's not.
Yeah, it's offered officially K-12. So right now it's not officially actually offered anywhere because we don't have an approved MOA by the board. Right? It's not officially out there, but we've had some situations, more than one, multiple, that have been very time sensitive, and people who have needed this sooner rather than later. So when I met with and talked through this with Terry, the association president, we didn't want to wait necessarily for board approval. So we've kind of piloted a few already to see, will this work? How does it work? Because people really needed to know. And again, we really need them to teach. We really want them to teach. They really wanted to teach. So we did a couple, I don't even know what it is now, 2 or 3 or something like that. I've lost count of all these things, but we have a few that are practicing this right now as a pilot. They've been in the high school because that's where we've been remote. My assumption is that once you approve this and it's official, we'll kind of put it out there so people are aware of it more out in the open, right? And give people that opportunity. We haven't hit it, but we just haven't, it's not approved, so we haven't been advertising it. And then it'll be open K-12. Obviously, though, the way it would work, it's much easier to do 6-12. So, that's something we've talked to the association about, that there's a lot of subjectivity. We try and do things as black and white as possible. Like, the contract is a black and white document that we try and follow. And, you have to have X amount of prep time. It's not a lot of gray there. This is something where we've said pretty openly, this is like the definition of subjectivity. We're going to do the best we can to be as responsible as we can to the kids, to the faculty. There's going to be some situations where someone's like, well, how come I didn't get approved and they did or something? It's just going to have to be kind of a trust. And I think everyone's on board with that and understands the need for that. So it's more geared towards those who are remote. There's no doubt about that. So as of now, 9-12, and as of tomorrow, 6-12.
Thanks, Jim.
And I know the association is very, very grateful and thankful for the opportunity. I've been in contact with Terry, and he's expressed that I think on behalf of the association, I think I'm accurately speaking for him, that they are very appreciative of the board's willingness to entertain this. It's something that they certainly value and appreciate.
Well, we appreciate you being able to come up with these creative ideas to keep the teachers moving as in these times that are just so, dare I say it, unprecedented. So yeah, but we appreciate that you're being very creative.
Absolutely. And it's been a partnership really with the association. So we're feel very fortunate with our relationship and the things we've been able to do together. I think, we're on the same page by and large. So it's a very positive relationship, and we thank them for their partnership. So
that's really great, because it's not what we're seeing in other parts. I mean, it's that relationship is so crucial, Jim. So kudos to you and Terry. Like, I can't imagine what this would be like if that was not the case.
Agreed.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, be it resolved to approve to accept the results of the December 8th, 2020 special referendum vote for propositions 1 and 2 per the results attached. Do I have a motion? Anne, seconded by Samantha. I think I saw those hands go up first. Okay. We're going to discuss the capital project after in this next item. So if anybody has anything pressing to ask about the results, you can ask that right now. Or any discussion on the results.
I did receive a number of emails, and some of them were quite long, explaining their opposition to one or both, or how they voted.
Good. Doug, can we hold that to the next session, the next item
Sure.
agenda, the discussion items, and then we'll go through those then?
You bet.
Because we definitely would like to hear them.
Okay.
We'll just get this vote done to accept the results, and then we'll have the discussion. Okay, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. So that brings us to item number 11, discussion items. And being that we are on Zoom, I would like to give everyone a chance to speak. So I'm going to call on individuals in the order you guys kind of appear on my screen. And I would ask that, as Doug started to say, provide the feedback that you personally have and that you are hearing from the community. And secondly, provide any thoughts you might have on moving forward. So Doug, because you started that, we'll let you start. Thank you.
I guess it's hard to characterize all of the communication that I've had in terms of lumping it into certain categories, but I've tried to do that. But there's a connection between all of them. And I think to address something else that you just said was, before we move forward, I think we need to have a really in-depth dialogue with all segments of the community, because I hear things from the community right now that bother me a little bit, and I don't want to see us drift away from where the community is. I hear a lot about poverty. I spoke recently to someone who works in town, who travels around town, and he was telling
Did Doug just freeze for everybody else?
Yes. Hey, Doug, if you can hear us, you're frozen on the screen.
Oh, wait, he's moving now.
Oh, there you go. You still there, Doug?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Is he allowed, are we allowed to cut the camera? Because I know that sometimes unfreezes the process.
It's probably a good idea to cut my camera.
If legally we can,
I don't know.
No,
Doug,
Let me read a few comments.
Well, but before you leave that and move forward, you said you heard about poverty and you talked to somebody in the community who is out and about in the community, and then you cut out. So if you could finish that thought before you continue, that would be helpful.
I got you. I think that's one of the connections from all of the emails that I got, is that money, poverty, people are unsure of whether they're going to have a job or not. Some of them are losing income significantly because they either have to stay home or they, for one reason or another. And that's the underlying theme, I think, here. And what that produces when a school district asks for something, that's elements of it are perceived as being wants and not necessarily needs. That creates some anger, and I don't want to see that anger or separation between the district and the community grow any more than it already has. One of the one of the emails, and I'll just go through them real quickly. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Many people are struggling to make ends meet. Small businesses are suffering. Bad time to ask for a tax increase. So when they say timing, I know another email referenced the timing from last spring, the comments that were made that it was a bad time then. And one of the people said that contacted me that what's the difference between the time last spring and now? And if anything, the time now is even worse. So the timing of the vote was poor. I don't think the community, another comment I received was, I don't think our community can support, quote, wish list items right now. I think there would have been more support if they were focused more on just the needs rather than the wants. That is the safety measures and those issues that were bunched together, perhaps in Proposition 1, probably would have been more productive. The actual one of the comments I had that bothers me a little bit, and I'd like to present it, is that the actual projects seem like a typical political game. Let's throw a safety concern in with a bunch of wish list items so that if the community wants safety for kids, they have to approve the other nonsense too. That mixture of projects, whether it be in Proposition 1 or Proposition 2, I think is perceived, I know is perceived as kind of a political maneuver. And that is, if you want one, we're going to tie that to something else that we want. And of course, that's done in Congress all the time with the riders and on bills. But I don't think we should do that. I think we should separate. If we ever think about doing this again, I think we need to separate the items. Another comment was this project was poorly presented to the community members without children. This project was poorly lumped together with too many wish list items combined with actual needed items. Inappropriate timing and was the comment. But there's just one more that I'd like you to read, and there was some confusion. In other words, maybe there wasn't enough explanation. I know the brochure contained a lot of information, but it was maybe too wordy and didn't get to the point in a few areas, and it wasn't as easily readable for some people in the community. Money, for example, a comment, money for career and college preparatory center in the middle school was confusing. I can understand the need at the high school level, but it needs explanation when targeted at middle schoolers. This is the type of issue, this is the type of question that if we didn't have the pandemic and we had public forum meetings, we could address that easily. But saying that, I don't think we should blame the pandemic for a lack of clarity on some of the issues. I think the technology that we have and I see the technology used in other platforms such as the radio. I think we could have a dialogue with the community and have them at home ask us questions in real time and answer those questions and have those sort of forums in the future. I think that will go a long way towards solving a few of these problems in terms of the confusion. In my own opinion, I think that we have a lot of work to do before we even consider putting it out for anything else, for another vote, to rearrange it. I don't want it to appear like we're just shuffling the cards around and make it look different before we put it up. I know we have a critical budget coming with potential shortfalls all over the place. The 20% cut in state aid, for example, is people know about, everyone knows about. What are you going to do about that? And what impact will that have on our taxes? So there's multiple areas I think we need to address. I would really like to see some interaction with the community. And when I say the community, I mean all levels. I think we have to interact with the parents whose children we have that are in the 20% area where they're having a difficult time. They're struggling financially. We need to communicate with those people. We need to communicate with the business people in town on a real dialogue basis and not just on one-on-one. And we need to communicate with all the special interest groups as well. So I think that's where I am. Those are some of the conclusions I drew from the emails. I did get a couple dozen of them, and I won't go over them. I promised the people originally that who sent me emails that it was private. It was on my private email account. I would not divulge any names, but I certainly have a lot of comments. Again, some of them very long and some of them reflecting anger and disappointment. And I think we need to correct that. And that's where I am right now. Thank you.
Thank you for that valuable feedback. Okay, Chris, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. I will. I'll keep my camera up. Hopefully, it allows the audio to work as best possible. I respect the vote as it came out, and I respect the comments that Doug shared and that others have shared. Certainly disappointed in the outcome. I think it's important. There are a couple of things that were mentioned by Doug, but I think it's important that for folks in the community that they understand a lot of those things that were just mentioned were attempted at various levels. And I understand that for the community as a whole, that there's a desire to learn more. The channels that are available to us during these times are a little bit more challenging. A session was held where people could ask questions and be part of it. The advertiser was used. The newsletter was used. The videos were absolutely wonderful. The tax calculator was, I thought, a nice facet to be able to allow folks to use. I think it's important for the community as a whole to realize that, we had a capital plan that was approved back in May of 2013. We started preparations for this particular one in 2016. Several of us participated in a long-range planning committee that allowed us to put together a list of priorities. That list of priorities ended up being 16 pages long. So I think it's important as we talk through and we figure out what our next steps are, that folks understand there's a lot of work that went into what was done leading up to us putting it out to the public. I know there are folks that asked, well, why is it that we chose to go now? What's so different about back in May? And again, I think that's an education process of explaining that based on the much more favorable interest rates, we thought it was beneficial to the taxpayers to look at putting it out to a vote. While we all understand that times are tough, at the same time, I think it's important to realize a lot of these critical items that were listed in priority one, and I think we could probably come up with an exact percentage, but a vast majority of the items that were listed in proposition one, I should say, were from the priority one list. Certainly as a group, we can go back and look at what needs to be addressed and where we could potentially trim. But when interest rates are good, whether it's your own life or it's outside of your life and you're looking at a school district, we're all trying to see how best to make this as palatable as possible to folks. So, I'm concerned that we're going to encounter some issues where there's going to be breakage, whether it's leaking, whether it's boilers, and I'm not looking for this to be a scare tactic, but it's like any of us when it comes to our homes. We're trying to be as cost effective with how to be able to take care of this. I'm concerned that if we will have to go about making some hard decisions, when it comes to the budget and things along those lines. If we have breakage, if we have things along those lines, the reserve funds that we're judiciously going to draw down that are tied to our budget season, that some of that may have to be used to take care of items that may be considered more pressing. So, I think as a group, I look forward to working through with everyone to talk through this more. I would say it's an unfortunate business model that the state has handed us here in terms of how we have to go to the public to look to get these types of things done. It's not ideal by any means, but I think when you look at really what we were asking the public for, and if we look to put it out again, the tax implications were to really start to hit in somewhere in the 2023 timeframe. So yes, currently times are not great. No one's going to doubt that one bit. And I hope and I pray that we're able to all get through this in a much better fashion. But at the end of the day, these implications are ones that would affect us from a financial standpoint in approximately 2 years' time. So I guess what I'd say to the group as a whole, from my perspective, I still feel as if items from Proposition 1 need to be considered. I would say that the items that are from a priority 1 standpoint are certainly the ones that should be given the most attention. And it may be helpful to kind of get a list. I know a list was shared, but maybe we kind of have some discussions on looking at that and seeing what suggestion board members have in terms of how we could look at it and see, are there certain items that are there that have to be addressed? Certainly there was no scare tactics when it came to the security piece. I mean, it's no different than the 2013 capital plan that was put out. Technology was a big one associated with that. And we were able to find some savings there where the state actually provided some money to be able to take care of those things. I sure hope that security is something that the state would consider assisting with. The current state of the financial part of the state is not great, but if you think at the unfortunate 8-year anniversary of Newtown, unfortunately, I feel as if there's more of those kind of events that have to happen for our legislators to truly act, which is a shame. So all that being said, I look forward to continuing our discussion with our board members here to see what we would like to consider doing. It's certainly not going to all be answered tonight. But I look forward to working together to see what we can do to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Again, all valuable. Anne, would you like to go next?
I just told my family I needed it a little quieter. Sorry about my background noise before. Doug and Chris already mentioned a few things that I was thinking about talking about. And I do appreciate the feedback that Doug shared with us from the community, and clearly the vote reflected those feelings. Looking back on it, I wish that there was more, that we had made it more. I don't know that we could say we made it more clear, because we have been entrenched in this since it started as board members and long range planning and so on. So for us, it was very clear because we have been over it and over it and over it. So there is some lack of understanding, despite the best efforts. I personally thought everything was presented very well. I thought the videos were fantastic. The different perspectives, I thought, again, just what Chris said, the tax calculator tool, so much work has gone into presenting this as clearly as I thought possible. But one thing I don't think that really showed as much was, and I did end up talking to community members about it, was when asked why now, was these things take so long to get through SED and all these regulations and processes before a shovel hits the ground, so to speak. So that part is what bothered me the most about this whole thing, is that we've already gotten like 3 years into this, and things are breaking and need to be repaired. And I worry about the timing of it, that, even if we got a yes vote, we'd be looking at 2023 before anything even happened. And things are going to be, God, I hope things are going to be very different then. And there's always going to be a question of someone's future. Right now, it's really scary for a lot of people, but generally we're all thinking about our future, our retirement, our kids' college fund, our, when to get it. We're all thinking about that all the time, just more so now in these past months, and probably a few more months, that, things are difficult. People are losing jobs. But I wish that there was more of an understanding that this is not like we vote for it now and it starts in the summer, because it doesn't. And there's going to be a lot of years in between there. I just wish that was a little more clear. I also believe that it's human nature generally let me back up a half a step. There was an article in the Advertiser a couple weeks ago where somebody mentioned that this, beware, this is being jammed down our throats. We don't know anything about it. They're sneaking this in. And I just felt like, are you reading the very newspaper that you just wrote to? Because there's been an article in this paper every week leading up to that point about this project, and to please go to these resources and look at these resources and ask questions. And yet there's this editorial in there that says this is being snuck in, so watch out. And I think that it's human nature that people hear only things that fit their agenda or their argument, and they don't necessarily want to hear the rest. And for families that are struggling particularly, and I get it, my school taxes out here are very high. And my own family asks me, why would I vote for this? And so what I say to anybody is Michael and the team are pretty amazing at taking some costs that are not negotiable, like we just talked about earlier. The CSEA steps and the APTA and health insurance. There's costs we have absolutely no control over. And yet he takes these and puts them into a budget where hopefully we're not cutting programs, and they're thinking outside the box and trying ways to move classes around and move faculty around and save money through attrition. And there's all these things being done that people don't realize, that we are trying to save money wherever we can. And it is necessary to spend money to maintain your buildings and your programs, and to raise students and citizens that are going to compete in this world. So I believed in the projects, and but I'm more concerned. I believe in the enhancements, let me say, but I'm more concerned right now about the priority 1 items that Chris mentioned. And finally, for those folks who maybe don't have a student in the district anymore, or never did, or maybe, as in my case, mine will all be graduated. I feel like we've talked about this before, that our school district in our community is our community center, and our community does benefit from it, from the improvements. And so I said a lot of words, but I guess I didn't really say much. I'm obviously disappointed, and I am looking forward to the discussion where we go back and say, okay, how are we going to re-present this? Because I still very much believe it's important, and a lot of work has gone into this, and how to represent it in the spirit which it was in the first place, which is we want to make this a great place for our kids, a safe place for our kids, an engaging and enriching place for our kids, but you know, we don't want to nail people to the wall for taxes either. So, and we are trying to find that balance. And I don't know how to present it any better than we did. I thought the administration did a fabulous job. I really did. So I talked more than like ever. So thank you.
No, Anne, thank you. That was good feedback too. Samantha?
I just wanted to, I agree with everything Anne just said. And I wanted to like go a little specific if I could, just based on feedback. You know, one of the things I will say personally, in terms of delivery, the way things were presented kind of in the like macro, and I know that Jim got out to, you know, the administration got out to where they could. For those of us in a bubble, I know it's, you know, we can't put everything on COVID, but again, going into the micro, I am a very outgoing person. I took the time to figure out all the work that I had done before I even showed up. And I wasn't able to go anywhere because of that great guy behind me, right? Who's 91. My bubble is a really tight bubble, and it had to be. And so not being able to go out, I would have gone anywhere in the entire district. I'm also one of those families where COVID made it so that my family went from being a 2-wage earner to basically a 1-wage earner family. And so personally, my ability to sort of get out there, all of us, to sort of engage in those, you know, when those questions came up, well, wait, how are the two tied? The Proposition 1 and Proposition 2, how are those things tied together? To say, okay, well, let's, you know, like have a cup of coffee and we'll talk about it. To not be able to do that was very hard. And so I did want to just say that I want to clarify, because I'm not sure how it came off the page sounded like, or the screen, I should say, that I feel like we were very specific in terms of actually separating the wants from the needs. And that was the whole, and I am concerned now that there was misunderstanding about how Proposition 1 and Proposition 2 interacted with each other. And I just want to clarify for who's ever watching now and who's ever going to watch this on a restream, that was the idea, was that Proposition 1 really with those like, let's not have the boiler die on the coldest day of the year. And with maybe the odd thing that's like, if we're going to rip that wall out, let's put it back in a place that makes sense. And then if everybody voted for turf on the field, but didn't vote for the boilers, then you don't get the turf without the boiler and the roof. So I think that we, you know, if everyone said, oh my gosh, like fix the roof and turf, you know, that's nice, but it's like, come on, people. That's totally fine. And that was how it was meant to be. So if that was a misunderstanding, I think kind of clarifying that as we go forward is very important, so that there is a good faith presentation. Like nobody was trying to hoodwink anybody. Nobody was trying to sneak anything. And I feel like it was exactly the opposite, where it was like, you can actually choose to separate these two things. That's what I believe we tried to do. So I just want to clarify that Proposition 1 and Proposition 2 were tied in a way so as to facilitate the separation of the wants and the needs. You know, the other thing I do want to say is, like, it's hard to take the long view when we're in something like where we are now. I totally get that. But there was another thing that was mentioned about laptops and tech investment from, I think, probably before I was in the district. And I got to say, who knew the pandemic was coming and all the kids were going to have to go home with a laptop for 6 months? So that's one of those things where somebody gets the idea, we think this is going to be a good idea. It's going to take a bit of faith to make that investment. And then along comes something like this. And thank goodness we did, because if I couldn't get that laptop, where would I be? And I'm far from alone in that. So it's, you know, a gulp of a situation. But again, again, to clarify what Chris said, and I'm going to leave it here, is that maybe as we go forward, really hitting on those, like, this is not that any increase to your taxes. You're not going to see that now. You're going to see that in 2 years. Any tying of the wants and the needs is purposefully separated, and we'll do our best. If we have to thread that needle even more, we will, but it's very purposefully separated, and trying to do the best without knowing what's coming. So that's all.
Thank you, Samantha. It's helpful too. Megan?
Thank you, Jesse. So everybody has touched on a variety of things that I would also agree with. I agree with Anne that I think that so many of us were entrenched in this. I mean, you guys were already working on this when Sam and I were elected, and when we came on, we kind of had to ramp up, and then it was a quick change gears because there was a need to change the structure of the program, which caused a delay because we changed to Mosaic, which was a decision that was discussed and mulled over and really considered. I think where I find frustration, and I totally can feel the frustration in the community with the pandemic. I think that if we failed as a board, it was in that I don't think even all of us on this screen have a clear understanding of what is supposed to happen. Clearly, there was a message that the community received, that there was blending of the propositions, because some of the feedback that I got was that people did not understand the difference between Proposition 1 and Proposition 2. I mean, you're always going to have a situation where, from my perspective and from several other perspectives, the entryways to the buildings are paramount to safety. It is a huge safety feature, but you have folks that don't, Chris referenced Sandy Hook, and you have people that don't believe that that is of pertinent value. We living in the times of COVID, and we're trying to socially distance our kids to be able to eat their lunch safely. And you have people that don't understand why an undersized cafeteria at Miller Hill is a safety feature. Well, when you're trying to safely feed elementary school kids to prevent the spread of a virus, I mean, to me, it makes sense. If we failed, I think it's that we didn't properly convey those messages. I think that people definitely did not understand that the impact of this, while yes, it was going to impact us financially, it wasn't going to impact us this spring. All of the decisions that we make, I think those ambiguities could have been alleviated with some in-person meetings. But I am frustrated because there were the videos, there was the written, like Anne referenced, there was the writings in the advertiser, there was the booklet that went out, there was the online Q&A session, which someone could tell me how many people actually tuned in for that. I would be interested to know how many live people were on there. I recall the conversation in the spring about pushing the vote off of the spring budget. I was very much in support of delaying that vote at the time. And my details and my notes were that no one that was in that conversation believed that we would still be doing this 9 months later. When it came up again and we needed to make the decision to move forward, Mike was definitely very detailed in the pros and cons of moving forward. And we didn't all agree necessarily in doing that, but I definitely recalled the Proposition 1 and Proposition 2 being a compromise, that we didn't want to place those wants versus needs. We discussed what was going to go in Proposition 1 and what should go in Proposition 2. And I agree that Proposition 2 was, it was the fun stuff. And we all want to give the fun stuff to our kids, right? We all have kids and we want to see them benefit from that. But we went through the different details line by line. That meeting was what, 4 hours long? I mean, we went through that line by line by line, and discussed the compromise of having the Proposition 1 and Proposition 2. And no, we didn't agree, but in the end, we as a group made the decision to move forward. I feel like we have failed our kids. They are less safe because this didn't pass, because we didn't have a uniform message. We couldn't come together on this. There were misrepresentations and misinformation, and some of the feedback that I got from the community. I don't understand how it got from A to B and got twisted in the middle. I really don't understand that. But going forward, I am concerned about the critical building things. I do think that we're going to have to go through Proposition 1 line by line again, because and again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure almost $31 million of that 32 whatever was, okay, so Proposition 1 was $32.7 million, and I'm pretty sure that 1 million of that was related to critical buildings and maintenance, and those items are only going to get more expensive as we go on. So we are going to need to look at, and we're going to need to worry about how the building aid, the state functioning is going to, with how the state may change the rules for building aid, how that's going to affect going forward. And maybe we need to have more online sessions, more live sessions. I hope that there are more than 8 people actually watching this. I hope people go back and watch this later, because I'm looking at my YouTube stream and I only see 8 people watching it right now. So I hope that the community is hearing all of this and reading all of this. I want them to engage. I want to hear from the community. I've said that publicly. I've said that in our emails here, and I hope that the community comes out. I don't know or understand why anybody would feel the need for anonymity. We're not a spiteful organization. And I don't know why anybody would feel that they needed to keep it confidential, or that they, obviously we're open to hearing it. We want to do the right thing for the school district. That's why we're all here. It's important to all of us. Every single one of us takes this very seriously. Every single one of us invests our time at great length and our energy for the greater good of the community and for the kids in the district. So I definitely think that we have failed in some way, that someone would feel the need to be anonymous in giving their feedback to the board. That bothers me, that people would be worried about coming out and being open about, their views. And that being said, we are going to have to bring this up sooner rather than later. I asked Mike to, run those numbers for us again, and so that we can go line by line again. But I don't think we're going to come up with very much that can be shaved off Proposition 1. And that's just my general view of the matter. But I do think going forward, we need to have an open dialogue with the community, that they need to feel comfortable speaking up, because we do want to hear what they have to say, so that we don't have, all of this time wasted for nothing. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Peter?
Hi, I'm going to try and keep it brief. I agree with a lot of what's been said. The timing was very difficult because of the state of the economy, due to the pandemic, the loss of people's jobs, concern about taxes being increased, even though, as was pointed out, the funding or the tax increase wouldn't have hit us until a couple years down the line. I was on the borderline about putting both propositions forward at the same time. But I voted to support it, and the board supported it, and we are public figures. When the board supports a proposition, it's our duty to support the board's decision to the public. I am very concerned about the lack of public participation in this discussion as it went along through the many months that we spent doing this. And I would ask fellow board members to encourage people to talk to the board, because I think it's very important for the board as a whole to hear these comments. It might have changed the way things were presented. I don't recall very many public comments at all as we were going through this procedure. We also run into difficulties putting up propositions in the fall. Historically, we've had a number of propositions that have not passed in the fall, and I think that's something for us to consider also as a board moving forward with this. The other point that was brought up was about the expenses. Many of what we put forward for Proposition 1 were critical items. Those costs are only going to increase because many of the things on level 2 are going to be, because of their age, they're going to break and move into level 1. I can understand people being concerned that this may be a scare tactic, but the public was involved in this review of these items. And that concerns me, that there isn't this trust in the board. That's something that I'm not quite sure how to deal with. I think we've been very transparent. Everything's been laid out there for the public to see. A lot of this is hindsight, though, and I think moving forward, we need to consider all these factors before we put another proposition out to the public. So much is going to depend on what happens in the next 3 to 6 months, as far as was pointed out again, the support of the state economy, which affects the schools and people's jobs and their health. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to Jess.
Thank you. This is all really good feedback, and I was taking some notes. I guess for me, I do think I thought we did a great job getting information out there, and I'm not sure how to do that different in our current situation when, like, as Samantha and everybody pointed out, we can't be out face to face. But I think we put forth a really good effort. Do we have lessons learned? Absolutely. I do think there was also a lack of understanding in the community, and I'm really sort of baffled as to where that came from, because I thought our information was clear. But as Zan pointed out, we were living it and breathing it, so we certainly had a different perspective than others. So what I think should happen next, I know Jim had emailed out the whole building assessment survey and the priority list last week after we had the results of the vote. So I would encourage you all to take a look at that list, on your own, provide any feedback you might have, and you can provide that, I guess, directly to me. And taking this information that was delivered tonight, taking your information when you look at that list from the buildings condition survey, I think the next thing we should do is reconvene our subcommittee and maybe spend some time talking this through with our project manager, as well as our architects to really see how we move forward and sharpen our pencils on this. I am concerned about putting out another proposition with the budget if there's going to be budget concerns, because we certainly can't have the budget not pass. That's always a struggle when that happens. So we really do need to think about it. And I would encourage, like Peter said, encourage your constituents to reach out to the whole board so everybody is understanding what people are thinking. It's not secondhand, it's firsthand. And why we know that you guys aren't trying to spin anything one way or another, it just provides a little bit more merit when it's straight from the horse's mouth. I think everybody knows that, because that's just how life is. So we will certainly talk about it again, but I think those are some maybe the start of the next steps is to take a look at that buildings condition survey, provide that feedback, encourage the people you guys talk to the whole board, and also encourage them to think of ways we can better communicate with the community, because that's something that would be valuable for us to understand also. And then we'll just go from there. At this point, I don't think we need to make any decisions right now, but just maybe start down a path of moving forward. Yes, Megan.
Do we still have there was an email where people were able to submit questions, right, Jim?
We still have that.
Do we still have that open? Can we possibly keep that open and keep that out and in play and in use so that the community members have that as the resource for submitting questions so that we can get that feedback since it's already set up?
We disabled it. During the process, we received a grand total of 1 question through that email. It appears that people were more comfortable contacting the board than using that. I guess they don't trust us. But I spoke to the gentleman personally, so which I would do if possible to anybody who sent emails to that email, but nobody used it except for 1 person. So we can reopen it, but I doubt that we'll get anybody. From what I've heard, you guys, you're going to solicit the conversations through the board. So.
Well, I think it's still a good idea to have, I mean, we have the APBOE email address open. So people, if you guys are hearing from the community, encourage them to email that address so they hear directly from the board, and certainly the administration can see that too. We'll make sure they're aware of concerns and feedback.
The ones that go to that, I think I get too.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think it was valuable for everybody to have their own time, especially on Zoom, and in a way to make sure we all had a few minutes to express what we were thinking and hearing. I guess that brings us to our board member reports, item number 12. And I guess we can just go in the same order that we went. So Doug, if you would like to start on your board member report. You're on mute, Doug.
Someday I won't get this. I won't get this right ever. I have another safety meeting on Thursday, a district safety meeting. Should be interesting. And I will report back to the board on the general topics that were discussed. And again, no specifics will be mentioned, but I know there will be a considerable amount of discussion about the vote and what safety measures would have been implemented as a result of that approval. I think there's a lot to talk about in the future because we just all are coming from an angle, and I think we need to come together at some point in time and express some of our, if we have frustrations, whether it be with the community or with ourselves, we need to bring that to the forefront, and perhaps that takes place more in another forum, another format. I'm not sure, but I am really concerned when someone says we don't get any feedback from the community. I'm concerned about that. That's partly our responsibility to solicit that, to make sure that we reach out so that they feel comfortable and there's an avenue for all people to express their thoughts to us. Maybe we're just reaching out we need to reach out in a different way. That's my report.
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks, Jess. Tip of the hat to the Chronicle newspaper. I don't know if folks got to see it. I clicked on the link this morning and I was super impressed with the newspaper there that the high school's generating. If you get a chance, take a look at it. I couldn't believe how much information was in there. I actually had to put it down because I'm like, okay, I guess I got to get back to work here. So, but a lot of real good information in there, and it's great to see the students and staff participating. So, congratulations to them. I would like to thank the high school learning team for catching up with us. I think that, along with hearing about what Matt shared and with the Warrior Wellness Day and Savannah, really showing all of us, put your money where your mouth is. It's something where she stepped up, and we appreciate her insight. And it's great to see that we've been able to turn this around so quickly and be able to have something in place. As Doug mentioned, looking forward to continuing the discussion and seeing. I mean, we're all elected here to try to assist to bring forward what the community is sharing. So I think it's important for us to be able to kind of have those discussions and see how best to proceed. And lastly, since we won't meet before we hit the holidays here, I wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday. I wish I was going to be traveling to San Diego to visit my sister and mother, but I don't want to be on double secret probation with Dr. Franchini and everybody else. So I guess I'll stay here at Severn Hickory Lane and be a good boy. But I wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday.
Thank you, Chris. Ann?
I just want to say that I'm looking forward to, Doug, you got lots of emails, and some feedback there. I find that for me personally, a lot of my feedback would happen in the stands at a 3-hour track meet or, a 2-hour soccer game, and lots of conversations happen there and lots of knowledge and understanding and explanations and guidance. And I'm looking forward to those days as I know you folks are too, for so many reasons. And that's just one of them, is to connect with the community again on the sidelines, which is really so much happiness for me as a parent. But I do want to thank the high school learning team for their presentation. I'm so encouraged at all the great initiatives that the faculty and staff take for our students. And it just is really exciting to hear all the great things in the different areas that they're doing. And I'm really happy to hear about, it's not all roses all the time, and they understand that, and they're working toward making things better for those that aren't doing so well. And that's important, very important, just as important as the ones that are doing well. I want to say, hey, let's look out for that CD for the concert. I'm really looking forward to that. But again, missing the energy and the excitement of being in the audience and in hearing it. I'm like everyone else going to miss that, but looking forward to the CD. A lot of talented kids in our district. And finally, since we won't be talking again, I wish everybody a safe and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I am truly honored to work with all of you dedicated individuals that really care about our students and our district and our community. And I feel at this time of year where I tend to reflect on these things, I'm very blessed to work with folks of similar mind that care as much as I do. And I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Samantha.
So I'll try and make this fast. Just like a tiny little story. So when I was sailing and we took a group of kids out for a long field trip. Really, it was with young women, many of whom were kind of not outdoorsy, first time on a boat maybe, and something went wrong with the engine. And we had to anchor, we had to get towed. It was this big drama, and a little touch and go there for a while. And when we did a feedback, so it was just a 3-day program. It was just a physics curriculum, math curriculum, history out on the Hudson River. Is beautiful. And when we asked the kids, they fill out a thing at the end of the program, and we said, "What was your favorite part? Like, what was?" They came back and they said, "The emergency when the engine broke down. Can you guys do that again if we come back?" You were like, "Well, okay, maybe not." But it was a really good learning moment for me as captain because, and one of the reasons I'm so impressed with this high school team is that they are not underestimating the capabilities of these kids. And I know like it is completely crazy now, and maybe taking a page out of the Warrior Wellness for the parents and even the teachers out there. If you are struggling, I'm right there with you. And if you feel like you are failing, I am right there with you. And, even for those kids who are struggling, right, that 25% of kids, I definitely feel like this administration and, it's definitely that high school team, like they're drilling down to that. They're seeing where it is, they're going where it's needed, but the kids are just, they're stepping up. I'm just, I feel like I talk about the teachers a lot and how they made this transition. But the kid, like this is, I mean, and we can't, it's hard to see it now, but, and it won't be for everybody, but it's going to grow the kids in ways that we could never have known and won't know. They'll be, long gone 20 years from now running something really important, changing the world. But the resilience that they're going to get from this, I know that's an overused word, but it's true. They're learning things right now that, the same old, not that I don't want to get back there, don't get me wrong, but they're taking something from this emergency and you like, we can see it. And it's so fantastic that in this kind of wretchedness that they can sort of bloom anyway and take new things from it. So can you order up another emergency? Maybe when this one's over, let's kind of call it done for a while. But so thank you, Jim, and everybody for supporting them in this. And that's all. And happy holidays to everybody. Stay safe, drive safely, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Samantha. Megan?
Thanks, Jesse. So much to be thankful for. I would like to say thank you to the high school learning team, like everyone else, aside from having to teach in this, I know we overuse it, unprecedented environment. They're using creativity. I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. Using creativity in a time of adversity to create a positive outcome of a negative situation. And they're addressing all of the concerns that they would normally be addressing on top of everything else. And so I think they're doing an amazing job. I also would like to congratulate the high school students on the issue of the Chronicle. I saw it today. I thought it was fantastic. There's so much content in there, not just of the school community, but of the community at large. And I thought it was amazing. I thought all of the kids that participated in that did a great job on their articles. it was very journalistic. It was very what newspaper media is supposed to be. So I was really impressed with their ability to present the facts and keep it objective, except for the editorial pages. And I thought it was really well done. I would like to congratulate the Off-Broadway Players. They put out their production of Miss Nelson is Missing, and not the fall production that anybody was expecting it to be, but I thought that they did an amazing job. Again, using what they had available to them. I would like to congratulate all the Algonquin Middle School students who made the honor roll. Their honor roll just came out, and I believe the high school honor roll came out just a little while ago. And the elementary school just completed their first trimester. And so you have a lot of kids who are rising above and really doing well, and they're killing it. And I would like to recognize them and say, great job. You're doing a really good job. And we recognize that. I would like to send some positive thoughts out to our folks in the community who are quarantining and sick right now. We have people in our school community who are not well, and I am thinking of them, and I hope that they are recovering and not, having too hard of a time. So hopefully you guys come all through it on the other side doing well, and we appreciate you, and we're thinking of you. And then just to echo Anne's sentiment about being grateful for the opportunity to serve the community. I tend to be a direct person, and that can sometimes be abrasive. I always welcome the opportunity for people to talk with me, and I hope that they realize that I'm going to be real with them coming back, but it's always a welcome conversation. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to come out and represent, people in the community who some have said, you're really, we're a diverse group. And I think that we're kind of giving all of the different voices. And so communication is kind of key there. So I'm grateful for having the opportunity to work with all of you. I'm grateful to Jim for the hard work that he's putting in as our superintendent and the leader of the district. I think he's doing an amazing job. I can't say it publicly or privately enough. I think he's just killing it every day. And that's not even a great term for right now. I think that Matt and Mike and everyone's they're all amazing, and we're all very grateful for all of your efforts to, pull us through this. And I'm sure we're all really grateful to herald in a new year. Happy Hanukkah to everyone who's currently celebrating Hanukkah. I hope that you are celebrating in the best way you can. And I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. For those of us who are looking forward to that holiday. And I would like to wish a happy birthday to all of the December babies who get swallowed up with Christmas. And between Christmas and New Year's especially, you're not forgotten. We love you. And just thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Megan. Peter, you're up.
Megan, does that include you? Should we be singing happy birthday to you?
No, my middle child. My middle child, Liam, is December 30th. So of course, but I know he's not the only one, because every time I tell someone his birthday is December 30th, they're like, oh, so yeah.
Well, it could be worse. It could be on Christmas Day.
Hey, you got the tax write-off on his first 2 days.
I just wanted to say, again, coming from working in the academic environment and having to deliver content to students under these very trying conditions, and from an administrative role, dealing with all the extra things that you have to fight for and put forward. I'm really quite impressed with the teamwork that is going on in our district, the very positive attitude, as was mentioned, in supporting the students and interacting with faculty. It goes way beyond just the administration. The faculty have been amazing. The support staff have been incredible. This is so much new to deal with that none of us are trained for. And really, my heart goes out to all of you in the district, and hope that you have some time to sit down and relax over the holidays and spend time with your family, because I know many of you bring it home. Well, working from home, you don't have much choice. But I just want to recognize the sacrifice that you all are making, and it's really appreciated by me, and I'm sure by the rest of the board. Have a safe holiday. Take care.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, and not to repeat anything everybody said, just because I think we're all getting a little tired here, but thank you to everyone who's been working so hard to keep moving forward in such a positive direction as this year unfolds. And I do know that there's a lot of district from the admin all the way down that are working 24/7 to keep our students safe and healthy as best as we can. We want all the community members to keep that in mind and to do their part in keeping themselves safe and others safe that are close to them. So please celebrate your holidays safely. And I do hope that all those people who are working 24/7 do have a chance for some downtime over this next, I think they have 7 working days, hopefully, to be able to unwind a little bit and relax and enjoy their families. I do hope everyone has a safe holiday season and enjoys it to the fullest that we can this year, within all our safety guidelines. All right. I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else to bring up? Okay. Yes, Megan.
No, I was just getting ready to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. Well, we're putting you on mute and we're going to have somebody else.
Okay.
So now we're on our item number, what is it? 13, to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion? Megan. Seconded by Ann. No discussion, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?